Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RG's talk show Crosstalk. Well, Peter, yesterday, President Biden gave a reasonably coherent presentation in the White House about the
That must mean it was sterling.
about the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. So he made a number of interesting points. First of all, he said that actually the U.S. is not waiting till September 11th to withdraw. Probably the withdrawal will have been achieved by the end of August. He said, we've achieved everything that we wanted to achieve in Afghanistan. You know, we got bin Laden, we got rid of Al Qaeda. That's all we really wanted to do in Afghanistan. All the rest, all the nation building, you know, we never really intended to do that. We just sort of got sidetracked on that.
$2 trillion later.
What was interesting, however, was his insistence that the Taliban, it's by no means a done deal that the Taliban will win this war. He said, you know, well, you got the Afghan government, they have about 300,000 soldiers under arms. We've given them all this training, we're giving them weapons. The Taliban, there are only about 70,000 of them. So, you know, this, you know, it's not a done deal. Well, I don't think we should immediately dismiss this out of hand. I don't think that the Taliban is exactly like North Vietnam in 1975. Because remember, North Vietnam, it was a full-scale North Vietnam invasion in 1975. Saigon collapsed because no one really believed that the South Vietnamese army could take on the North Vietnamese army. I mean, once that invasion took place, I mean, South Vietnamese army could take on the Viet Cong. They couldn't take on the full weight of the North Vietnamese. Yeah, and they collapsed very quickly. Taliban, you know, they didn't do that well during the few years that they were in power from 96 to 2001. They didn't really unite the country. They're very much based on the Pashtun tribe. You know, they had all the people in the north who didn't support the Taliban, and you had all the Tajiks and all the different ethnic groups, Uzbeks, who don't support the Taliban. And I haven't done that well in the war so far. So it may be, yeah, the whole place will collapse very quickly and the Taliban will be in power. But you know, I think a more likely scenario is that the civil war will continue for quite a while, you know, for several years. So I don't think what Biden said yesterday was wholly ridiculous. Anyway, Peter, what was your take?
Well, yeah, maybe I'll kind of go in the middle. I mean, it's easy to say for using hyperbole, you know, Saigon analogy. You're probably right, because it's foreign occupiers is what unites all these very disparate groups, a group of warlords, and this is how Afghanistan has been run from time immemorial. Okay, and so when you have your major objective achieved, then they start kind of looking at each other. You know, that's what they tend to do. It depends. Look, everyone, it's very, very unclear what, and I did this on Crosstalk yesterday, it's on air today, and I asked the question, are we really leaving? Because they're contractors, what kind of support the American embassy is going to have, which is just tomfoolery. It's so stupid. So you're going to move your military command to the embassy, which makes it a legitimate target. Come on, somebody, think, please. All right. So, and then there's the whole issue about Kabul airport, and we have the Turks coming in, saving the day, as it were. From what we understand, the Taliban doesn't find that acceptable at all. Right. See, and now that we're talking about
the question, does the Taliban want to get into a shooting war with Turkey?
There you go.
It's a serious question.
Well, I mean, you know, since I mentioned airport, I mean, air power is going to be very important here. And given the geographical location, the logistics, the costs and everything, supporting the Kabul government from outside of Afghanistan's borders, it can be done, but it's a tall order. It definitely is a tall order. And I mean, before you're inside, you can, you know, leapfrog all the way around. It'll be a combination of what kind of commitment the Kabul government has to surviving, which I think is quite low. I think when you see the money flows drying up, your connections, the grift is going to drift away. And then, of course, it's going to be how much the U.S. wants to continue supporting it. You remember, George, we were young, but when Saigon was being besieged, and there was a congressional bill for, I think it was $400 million. Don't quote me on it; it's a long time ago. But just emergency aid to South Vietnam and Cambodia, and everybody just held their nose and turned away and said, "We're done. We're done with this."
That's of course a very interesting point, because their Congress actually specifically passed legislation saying nothing, not one penny for South Vietnam. So when President Ford actually, pleaded with Congress, I mean, South Vietnam needs aid. I mean, it's besieged, it's been invaded. They said, nope, not one penny. I don't think the same thing is going to apply here. So Biden, we're going to give the Afghan government resources. I don't see anyone saying no, we can't do that.
But I think that there's an interesting difference is when Saigon was about to fall. I mean, that was all over the papers. It was all on the news. We had 3 networks then. I mean, there was constant talk about it. Now here in this situation, people are saying, "What? What is that? Afghanistan again?" Exactly. See, this works against that, because basically, I mean, I remember telling my boss, he said, "Why don't you do programs on Afghanistan?" Because there's no interest in it, because the mainstream doesn't cover it. And if the mainstream doesn't cover it, it's not there. And so it's very, very, yeah, my recording yesterday was a program on Afghanistan. I think we did one maybe 6 weeks before, because that was when the Biden administration made its decision. But, for a long, long interval, we didn't do things. And so that works against these hawks and profiteers that want to keep it going, because people are saying, "I thought that was over."
Right, but at the same time, I mean, you're talking about arms.
As if it matters.
That's, no one really cares very much. I mean, the reason why Congress said nothing, not one penny more for South Vietnam, is they felt we got so badly burned in Vietnam that we don't want to get sucked in. That if we send several $100 million worth of weaponry to South Vietnam, then next week President Ford will ask us for another several $100 million worth of weaponry, and then he'll ask us to send in some special advisors, and then more special advisors, and then more military units. So there was this real panic that America's just this whole quagmire, which is going to get sucked back into Vietnam. Here it is just easy, send the money, the military. Industrial, all the defense contractors, they're very happy. They get to send their arms to Afghanistan, and there's no real loss to America. I mean, it's not like America's suffering any casualties.
Well, I mean, what we're going to find out, George, and we're going to find out relatively quickly, is if any of this talk about the relative strength of the Kabul government has any meaning. We're going to find that out pretty quickly.
Find that out.
Okay? Yeah. I mean, my sense is this. I mean, these people that have been conning and cheating and lying to the Americans, and they're just laughing, up their sleeve. That these stupid people give us so much money for 2 decades, man. I mean, what if they see that money stream is going to start is in danger or start drying up? They're just going to just send all their cash to the Emirates, and then they're going to just sit pretty there. I mean, that's it's not going to be the fighting strength. No. It's the people that pull the purse strings. They're going to decide when the jig's up. Okay, right. That's what it's going to be all about. Because there's plenty of news reports that every single day the government military forces are just melting away, like into Tajikistan, into Uzbekistan. They're just, it's over. Okay.
Well, so, I mean, I take those news stories with a little bit of a pinch of salt. I think because the media have a narrative. They're fixed on this narrative. Saigon.
You have to save the day.
That's it. And now, no one, you can't escape from that narrative. So I'm now a little bit skeptical of. It may be true. We don't know. But I just think that that there's too much of that emphasis and the sort of the inevitable, inexorable victory of the Taliban. they weren't like that. I mean, they're not that popular a force. They never were that popular a force in Afghanistan. They are a very narrow sectarian force, which is, and a lot of people don't want to return to this Islamic fundamentalism that they preach. And then there's the ethnic aspect, that they are Pashtuns and the non-Pashtuns don't want them. So that's why I'm not quite buying into the whole, oh, that's it, they're going to just take over the country and no one will resist.
Well, George, then that's what happens. Okay, after 20 years of trying to figure out an outcome here, I just think let them figure it out themselves if they can.
I think
that's just enough.
I think that's true. But for instance, everybody in that during that press conference with Biden yesterday, that was it. They all kept repeating, "Oh God, this is going to be Saigon. This is going to be Saigon. This is, you're handing the country over to the Taliban. That's it. There's nothing you can do to stop it." And I really felt, very rare for me, I really felt a little bit for Biden, who was saying, don't immediately take one analogy and say that this is what's going on now. That was a different, that was almost 50 years ago. It was a different world, different circumstances. These aren't the Vietnamese. These aren't people who've been fighting the French and then the Japanese and then the Americans for decades. This is a very different situation. So that's why I'm just a little bit skeptical of that narrative.
Yeah, but I mean, irrespective, there's no real honest public discussion why we needed to be there in the first place.
No,
I mean,
I agree.
I've always said that if you look at the circumstances of 9/11, the events of 9/11, you can, I think, with clarity and honesty, say that was a crime. It was a crime, and the perpetrators of the crime had to be sought and destroyed. And I think it should have been a police action, not a 20-year occupation.
Right,
okay? Right. And that's what it should have been. All right. So for me, what's most important is all of this is, obviously there's been a huge waste of treasure, a huge waste of lives. And of course, Western media never talks about the lives lost in Afghanistan, but of course they focus on Western military personnel. But the fundamental thing for me is that what is the lesson you learned? And that's when you hear crickets.
Right. No, I think that's right. And that's why when people start talking about democracy and what about the women and all of the rest, none of that has anything to do with the United States. And I have to say, Biden kind of made that point himself yesterday during the press conference, and it was the journalists who didn't seem to understand that essentially, it's up to Afghans to decide what kind of society.
Well, but doesn't that show Biden? I mean, he's an archetype of the lying, stupid, incompetent politician because he knew all of this. I mean, he's been around for what, 5,000 years, okay? And then suddenly you have a moment of clarity. Yep. Really? Yep. It just shows the rank hypocrisy of all of these people. All you do is punt. You punt and you punt, and then you say, oh shit, I'm left with it. That's what happened, Joe. You got stuck.
You're right. I mean, there's nothing worse than these slimy, opportunist politicians who then, when they see all their plans fail, they suddenly sound very, very reasonable. They're the realists, like Obama. You remember we were talking about that earlier, that exit interview with The Atlantic, when he started talking about the foreign policy blob. Oh, well, there is this foreign policy blob, very hard to deal with. You were the bloody president. You were there at the time of Libya. How come you didn't think, we're just going to cool it, not just rush into it, just a few years after Iraq? It didn't. So now, it's the foreign policy blob. Just so, and as you say, it's just the same with Biden now. Well, it's something that Afghans need to address. I mean, look, it was.
Where were you when we needed you in 2001?
Lyndon Johnson, who was vice president under Kennedy, said, well, American boys shouldn't be fighting the kind of fighting that the Asian boys should be doing. This is an Asian boys war, not an American boys war. And there he is, 2 years later, boom, sending in hundreds of thousands of American boys.
Even Johnson was politically incorrect then as he is now, but he's right.
So they all mouth the platitudes whenever it's opportune to do so, and then they quickly forget it all, just like Biden. I mean, if there's a humanitarian intervention going, and there may be, there's things going on in Ethiopia. Who knows what's going to happen in Haiti? I can quite easily imagine that within the next few weeks, there's going to be a drumbeat for some U.S. humanitarian intervention. Boom! There'll be Biden saying, "Yeah, I'm on board. We have a special mission. America values. We have a mission."
For God's sake, haven't we helped Haiti enough over 100 years? Haven't we helped them enough? Oh my God. Get ready. There's more humanitarian aid coming for you.
We're coming to help.
Oh God.
Help is
Speed, remember all those things? Oh my, it's when it comes to Haiti is like the comic book foreign policy from hell, okay? Because every weird combination you can ever imagine, it's in Haiti. Okay?
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then it's, if it's not the Clintons, it's someone else, swooping in. They gobble up all of that aid for themselves. Okay, I mean, it's a real talent, because the money's coming out of the helicopter. They swoop in, they whoosh it out. Okay, right. I'm sure Hunter Biden could be put to use as well in this year. Right. Who knows? He's got free time. Okay.
Remember Woody Allen's movie Bananas, when there's an American intervention into San Marco, and then somebody asked, "You're with the CIA, aren't you?" Said, "No, I'm with the UJA." UJA, what's that? United Jewish Appeal. I don't know, just send them in. Send the UJA.
Send them in, right behind you. No, I'll end on this. I did recording yesterday. We had a young academic activist in Kabul. And, and we were talking about the different scenarios that could play out. And, at the end of the program, when the recording ended, I just said to this young guy, I said, "I hope you're all right. I hope you get through this." I mean, because it makes you think, what possibly could happen. I mean, because obviously this young man has thrown his cards in with the West. And I wonder what his fate's going to be. And that's, I don't wish anything bad on the Afghan people. I think they've been through way too much here. And all of this was so completely unnecessary. I just want to end on this, is that we have to start learning from this, or it's going to happen again. Or you know what, guys? All our gaggling friends here, George and I will be in business for a long time.
Right. I mean, I will bet anything that the humanitarian interventionist impulse is not coming to an end anytime soon. As I said, watch this space with Ethiopia. America's getting very interested in there. Watch Haiti. There's people have their tongues hanging out. They want this humanitarian intervention somewhere.
As you're looking at those two, have a quick look at Black Hawk Down, just to refresh your memory. Okay. Right. All right, everyone. We're on Locals right now. Our address is thegaggle.locals.com. Our community is growing. We're doing one-on-one interviews via Zoom with gagglers. We look forward to that. It's a lot of fun. We have the Gaggle store is about to premiere. Lots of nice little cool stuff. Buddy is highly profiled. We like that. Right. And we obviously have a tip jar that can never be full.
No, it can never be too full. No, absolutely. We're going to have great products in the store. We have T-shirts, mugs, sweatshirts, all kinds of fun stuff. So any assistance you can offer would be very much appreciated. We're on Rumble. Look us up on Rumble. And remember, if you like the Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.